Last time on the Result-Driven Fitness Show.
Balance your body's pH. So, leafy greens, fibrous stuff, colorful stuff. Measure the amount of fat that you use. Vegetables! Fiber is good for your digestive tract. That is our mountain climber progression. Welcome back, internet friends, to the Results-Driven Fitness Show. It's our last episode of February.
In this episode, we're demystifying the carb devil, and we're gonna start talking about carbs by really introducing the different types.
Then from there, we're gonna give you some tactical advice on how to think about carbs and then how to start working them into your life.
Let's get started.
Yeah. Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the last week of February, and this Thursday will mark the 4th nutrition meeting for the Super U program we have going on here at Results Driven. And one of the last things that we are going to talk about for the month is carbs.
In nutrition and in the fitness industry, carbs are just a big buzzword. It's one of those things that people have just thrown a lot of some actual good information and a lot of nonsense information. But a lot of what's put out is just centered around selling systems or products that sell a short-term solution. With our members, we want to define what a carb is. We want to talk about why your body needs them, and then really start to change the conversation as to really more talking about carb types as opposed to just how many carbs should I have.
So it's important to understand first that carbs are just a sugar, and every fruit and vegetable that you can have has carbs in it. So if you're eating through the guidelines that we have, good luck avoiding carbs.
Okay, we get it. Carbs are sugar. But isn't sugar bad? Sugar is just what your nervous system is going to use. It's one of the fuels. You need about 100 grams of sugar per day to have the nervous system function optimally. If you're not getting enough carbohydrates in your diet, the human body is going to find a way to create carbs. In most cases, your body's going to go to muscle first. Muscle is going to break down into protein, which breaks down into amino acids that can be converted into sugar. People want to think that if they eat less carbs, they're automatically going to burn more fat. But the human body wants to sustain life for as long as possible at the lowest cost possible. Fat is 9 calories per gram. And unless you're in a perfect state, the human body is going to hold on to as much fat as possible so it has that energy for later. What does that mean? You need carbs.
So, Coach Ed, this guy right here, he went to the table where I was last week, and he talked about the different kind of carbs and starches that you should consider when you are trying to think about carbs now.
My husband got hooked on the carbs. Now he lives in a dumpster.
Carbs make you like super fat.
My friend lost 30 pounds and never ate any carbs.
Carb's a 4-letter word. I would try carbs, but they have the gluten.
Now that we've established that carbs are not the devil, let's talk about different carbohydrate sources. From left to right, we have our starches transitioning to starchy vegetables, our fruits, frozen fruits, and fruit juices. When we talk about carbohydrates, we want to differentiate between the starches, fruits, other carbs like sugary drinks, and vegetables. So if your goal is fat loss, and you've already started to eat every 2 to 4 hours, you're having protein with every meal, and you're having vegetables with every meal, the next thing to start to think about would be the different carbohydrate sources and when it's appropriate to have them. Sugary drinks and sugary foods like we have over here should be avoided in most cases. Fruits like apples or berries can be had at any meal. Fruits that are higher in sugar, like bananas or some of the other Caribbean fruits, should be saved for after a workout. And your starches should also be saved for after your workout. Starchier vegetables like butternut squash, just be aware of how much carbs you're having based on the serving size. If it's something that you have once in a while and you have a variety of other vegetables, like a lot of the green vegetables we introduced in the last episode, then I wouldn't even worry about it. But if it's gonna be a bigger part of your intake, we're gonna wanna start to account for the carbs in that butternut squash or other starchy vegetables. This is the first habit that we purposely break with a lot of people. We generally ask people to have the starchier carbohydrates only after a workout, but then as people are food journaling and we're tracking their performance and their body composition, we may ask them to add 1 or 2 starch meals, depending on the type of workout they're doing, their total activity level, and just how their body composition measurements are responding. If you're somebody who doesn't feel good when you have starchier carbohydrates, like some of the grains on the table here, then you can get the higher carb amount post-workout from fruit. If fruit doesn't work for you, we can try starchy vegetables. Either way, there's an option.
So now that you know which foods are higher in carbohydrates than others, and where to work them into your diet, we want to start changing the conversation about carbohydrates. It's not just a binary decision. Yes, I'm going to have carbohydrates in my diet, or no, I'm not going to. We want to work them in so that you can function optimally, and that's where we like to get a little bit of advice from the precision nutrition system.
So with precision nutrition, they are going to talk about carbs at times, but they're also just going to talk about different types of food. And that's one thing we want our members to start to do, is just change how they talk about carbs. You want to think about vegetables, fruits, starches, and other carbohydrates. So the third precision nutrition habit is to have vegetables with every meal. In the fourth habit, what you can do is it starts to differentiate between the different types. You can have vegetables with every meal, you can have fruit with any, and you want to reserve your starchier carbohydrates for post-workout if your goal is fat loss.
So your vegetables and fruit are pretty self-explanatory. They're gonna have carbohydrates, but it's okay to have them. So we're gonna have vegetables with every meal, and we're gonna have fruit with any meal. It's not necessary for the meal for you to get a well-rounded diet, but it's not frowned upon either.
As people start to have a little deeper understanding of these habits, we do start to differentiate between different types of fruits. A lot of people are gonna do better off with fruits like berries or maybe an apple or some of the citrus fruits, whereas some of the Caribbean fruits like bananas that are higher in sugar and just higher overall in carb content may want to be reserved for post-workout.
And that's where this stuff kind of gets complicated, but just getting some help from a coach can be very useful. So if you're doing resistance training like we talk about all the time, we talked about small group training and team training, having that sugar after your workout is very important to help restore the glycogen stores in your muscles and help reset your metabolism so you're ready to go and get the most benefit out of your workout.
What's a glycogen? Mike just mentioned glycogen. It's the stored carbohydrates in your muscle and liver. If you're doing the style of training that we recommend, which involves resistance training, you're actually going to be depleting those glycogen stores throughout your workout. So one of the ways you hit reset on the metabolism, and what I mean by that is essentially put your body in a state that you can achieve the goals you've set out to, whether it's getting stronger or dropping fat. One of the things you need to do is just replenish those glycogen stores. So yes, eat carbs.
And that rolls perfectly into the tactical advice that we would give any of our clients. So there's 2 routes you can take. You can either not worry about carbs in the beginning and just focus on the first 3 nutrition habits: eating frequently every 2 to 4 hours, having protein with every meal, and having vegetables with every meal. The 4th nutrition habit is the one we mentioned before. So having vegetables with every meal, fruit with any meal, and saving your higher starch vegetables or grains for after your workout. The other route would be using the Precision Nutrition Best Calorie Counting Guide to help you make the perfect plate for you.
Whichever route you're going, the first step is really just to eat reasonably. When you're trying to make changes before you have all the knowledge, revert back to what you know in terms of just good choices. Pick, for example, rice over a donut. Like if you make smart choices as you're learning, you're gonna make a lot of progress. If you're using option 2, you need to understand how much of each macronutrient you should have with each meal. So for most women, starting with 7 to 12 grams of fat, 20 to 30 grams of protein, and 20 to 30 grams of carbs is a great way to structure a meal. For most men, you want to have somewhere in the 15 to 25 grams of fat and 40 to 60 grams of protein and carbohydrates in each meal. Understand it's just a starting point. If you start there and notice you're not making progress, well, part of it is going to be learning more about healthy eating. The other part is going to be just making changes. If you're trying to drop fat and you're not making progress, you can eliminate a half portion of carbs or a half portion of fat and then continue to evaluate as you go.
Ultimately, allow education to be a cornerstone of your nutrition process. One of my favorite things to do is go on the Google and type in precision nutrition infographic. The first thing that's going to come up is their infographic archive, and there's tons of great articles and infographics on there for you to look at to start making decisions on what to start applying to your life.
So, in other words, continue to learn, but at the same time, you just want to be reasonable. Make eating choices based on your knowledge that you know are going to help get you to the goal you're trying to achieve. And just try your best to control portions as you're learning, and you're going to win over time.
Hopefully that information helps destigmatize the carb devil and makes it so that you know which carbs to choose and when to eat them.
Check back next week. We're going to be bringing back the fitness things. We just recently had a core clinic here at RD, and we're going to break down some of the information and hear some of what our members had to say about it.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Results-Driven Fitness Show.
Please take a minute and like, share, comment, subscribe, follow us on all of the social media things.
And keep back your attention, words, the social medias. Be a better human being. Goodbye.
Last time on the Result-Driven Fitness.
Start over. You're doing great. That's not helpful, Brennan.
So you want me to take the mask off and then say fitness show?
Correct.
Last time on the Result-Driven Fitness show.
I'm on a no-carb diet. I need to go to speech therapy. Kim!